Island Classic Festival 2017. I'm joined by one of my heroes and a former world champion, Mr. Hugh Anderson. Hugh, enjoying the weekend, the Pukekohe Classic, you loving it?
No, it's wonderful. We've started off in a new era. We've got the later model motorcycles that we're accommodating, and it's going off really very well. We've started a new era. We've moved on from the British control of motorcycling sport throughout the world, and we've moved on now to the Japanese time and the Americans. British couldn't ride two-strokes and couldn't manage them, but the Americans did, and the Europeans did. And so now we're working mainly with the bikes that the Americans rode, and so we're going into that period. We've got some wonderful engineers here who worked all through that wonderful period of the 80s, and bikes here, and these engineers are brilliant people who have brought another aura to our event. And so we're off now on a new period, which will grow, and within 2 years we'll be having the top American world champions here. And being Americans, they're quite easy to entertain, and they're quite forthright in speaking, you know. And I think that we'll be wonderfully well entertained. And this meeting is a success. It's quite obviously so. The weather's great, big crowd, lots of people, brilliant bikes. So this is the beginning of a new era, and it's a very special and important event.
Obviously, being a young rider myself, I've ridden a lot in the modern era, and I've actually never raced at Pukekohe because I started racing in 2009. I've won a couple of New Zealand titles in that time, but it's all in modern machinery, and we've never come to Pukekohe as a part of the championship as I've known it. Yet I was just talking to you before, and you said you came here when it first opened in the early 60s.
Yes. Well, I've been around for a long time. I am 81, you see, and I started riding in road racing in 1955, and I won my first road race. I started grass track racing in 1953. I won every race I was in when I was as a kid, my first event. Exactly 20 years later, at the same track, was my last ride, and I won the New Zealand Motocross Championship. 20 years later, at the same venue, the previous day, I won 2 New Zealand titles, a 250 and 500 in grass track event at Te Arawa. So that weekend I collected three national titles. I'm not certain how many I won, but in 3 years I picked up something like 19. So you know, that was a great time. So road racing was the most important part, of course, but I was by heart an off-road rider, and I developed the Suzuki road race machine. I was with it from the beginning, and we went on to win these world championships. Then I developed, at the same time I was developing their motocross machine, and I rode it in '67 at World Championship events, developing it. Broke a lot of things on it, and then they wanted me to stay on, but I really wasn't good enough. Plus, the hard work of meeting the demands of the second biggest factory in the world, I'd had enough of that, really. I mean, they're wonderful to work with. They're still personal friends. I'm still in communication with them. But I wanted to go motocrossing as a private rider with my own bikes, doing my own thing, just enjoying it, which I'd always dreamt of as a young fellow. And so I did that. But the Suzuki motocross bikes that we were working on all the way through, '67 I rode them, and a very good Swedish rider took over. He rode them in '68 and '69. And in 1970 they were first and second in the 250 World Championship, and they continued that for some years. In I believe it was 1973, Roger DeCosta won the 500 championship. So they'd won the 250 and 500 championships. It dominated motocross. It came from my development, sowing the seed of the idea years previous, you know. And so that was my, you know, contribution to it all, and that was the interest of it. And I stopped racing for quite some time, but then the classic thing began, and I started this club. Myself and a friend conceived the concept of this club in 1979, and we asked talented organisers, enthusiasts to attend a meeting in Hamilton. There was probably 20. We convinced them that there was a future for this. They put on the table what money they had, and we had $79. And that's how we started. Our first meeting here, and we cleared $6,000. $6,000 we took at our first meeting. But I was termed the coordinator. We had another chap as president and other things. I could do more outside being president because I could manipulate things, and I brought in a lot of ideas because it wasn't racing. It was just enjoying classic bikes, you know. and the classic bikes, the road bikes, was just moving. It was wonderful. And so this is how it all started. And of course, got more and more money. And so this is how we've become. And now it's, however many years later now, and 35 or 36 years, and we're now moving into this new period. And it'll continue, you know. And I can remember people saying things have a 10-year life cycle, you know. But we're going to head on to 40 years, you know, and more, because this is growing around the world, because it's a friendly thing. The social atmosphere is terrific. Whereas you go to a race meeting and it's all cutthroat, more cutthroat, you know, less friendly, less this. But here you can go and talk to anybody, and they respond. And it's so, and you're racing motorcycles, associated with motorcycles. You don't have to kill yourself out here. You can ride within your ability, and you make friends. And hey, it's a wonderful day, wonderful weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, being someone who's quite young and hasn't raced classic motorcycles very much, I have raced a little bit. I come here and I recognise so many people, because there's a lot of people from my era who are thoroughly enjoying racing classic motorcycles, and a lot of people from my era's fathers and granddads and all that. This is where the seed got sown from, them racing bikes in their era and racing classic bikes still today. So it's been great wandering around. I have to say, I compete a lot in the modern stuff, and the environment here, the atmosphere is so friendly and warm, and I don't think I've paid for a meal yet. I've just been constantly people, oh, would you like something to eat? It's incredible. It's a great atmosphere. I love it.
No, this is it. Because there's a lack of competition. It's here to enjoy bikes, enjoy people, and quite a different thing from a race meeting. Quite different. You are here to enjoy it, and the social side's terribly important. And it's what right from the beginning, the social side, we pushed it hard, and we had wonderful social evenings, wonderful, good speakers, lots of fun, and it was all up in the race course, up in the dining room. We used to have it there. And of course, I had a bar there and a few drinks, and no, it was great. It really was, and it always has been. Things keep changing one way and another, but things keep changing. But there's no difference, you know. And it's the people. But this meeting is a good one. This is the best meeting we've had for 3 or 4 years, because there's a bit of a downturn. I mean, we had to build it up. It went flat for a while. We built up the committee. Good presidents, good committees, and so we've got this cracking meeting. Wonderful, and it's going to get better. In a couple of years' time, it'll be pretty big here. Wait to see, because what's coming in is the younger guys. These people who are engineers for like Kenny Roberts. Got to think of their names. Kenny Roberts. Who's the top guy? The Italian chap. Rossi, Jeremy Burgess. But a lot of guys who mechanics for most of the top riders are here, and they're also organisers. And one chap here, he's a great organiser. He's setting it up. That you wait and see what happens the next couple of years. We'll be having Americans here. The whole thing's going to be pretty big. Oh yes, and great bikes. The chap here, an Irishman living in Australia, who's done well in his life. He'll be buying bikes, and the whole thing's going to change. He was here last night. He's a modest man. He just sat back so you couldn't see him in the tent here. Finally, he stood up, and the guy who was in charge of the ceremonies, he straight away, Tom Dermody stood up and everybody cheered. You know, well, he just loved it. He'd never got that respect before, but you get it here, and all of the chaps are wonderful with the response they get and the thanks they get, the whole thing, and so it's going to work. It's going to work.